Motivation theories and their proximity to culture. Introduction. Fredrick Herzberg, as an extension to his study The Motivation to Work, showed that his theory motivation hygiene theory is equally applicable to all cultures. He demonstrated in this empirical research that the motivation hygiene theory is not constrained by the cultural influence in the management process. But that was in the 1960s, after which organizational studies have undergone tremendous change. Does Herzberg's view that culture does not affect motivational theory still hold? In this paper, we will argue otherwise, i.e. motivation theories are culture-bound. This paper provides a comprehensive understanding of the research on motivation theories and their proximity to culture. But before dwelling any further, it is important to understand what we mean by culture, and whether is it national culture or organizational culture that we are considering. Here we consider a definition of culture developed by Geert Hofstede as a collective mental programming of the people in an environment. Culture is not a characteristic of individuals, it encompasses several people who are conditioned by the same education and life experience. In this definition, there is distinct importance laid on the culture affecting individual needs and values. At this point, it is important to understand that organizational culture and national culture are two distinct concepts, and in this article, I will deal with national culture as a constraint on motivational theories. This is so because national culture may or may not differ from organizational culture, but affects it. National culture and motivation theories. If we recount the study on motivation hygiene theory, research has shown that natural culture does not affect the theory of motivation of employees. Herzberg studied his theory on a group of American and Finnish employees after establishing that there exists a considerable difference in their national culture. However, the study showed that there exists no alteration in results, and the theory holds, implying that there exists no effect of national culture on motivation theories. But I believe otherwise. The first reason for this conclusion is individuals' self-concept, beliefs, values, and needs differ with culture. As people in different cultures show different sets of values, their ethical norms at work differ. Further, due to the different levels of need, the factors which can motivate or prevent dissatisfaction vary. As the needs and values of individuals are different, the motivational theories applied to them, be it Maslow's hierarchical theory or Herzberg's motivation hygiene theory, their application will differ with differences in culture. A similar view has been presented in the literature review by Latham and Pinder in the research of Fisher and Yuan. The second reason that I feel affects workforce motivation is dependent on the 5 dimensions of culture devised by Hofstede, especially individualism/collectivism, masculinity, and power distance. The reason for the difference in workforce motivation in an individualistic culture would be the need to fulfill individual needs rather than the collective needs of a group. Further, with high cultural power distance, the power distance in the organization is expected to be high, and in such situations, motivation theories will be more effective. So, in cultures that have a high level of power distance, motivational measures of superiors will have more effect on subordinates. This view is found in the study of Latham and Pinder. The third and most important argument is that motivational theories cannot reject cultural conditioning. Following Hofstede, it can be said that what will motivate a person will depend significantly on the cultural conditioning through which the individual has gone through. Sigmund Freud believes that we are driven by forces that are unconsciously within us, which he calls ID. The ego, which he calls our conscious mind, tries to control these forces, and the superego, which is again our unconscious inner driver, is determined to criticize the thoughts and actions of our ego. According to Freud, the superego is the conditioned us, which is the outcome of learning from our parents, socialization, and immediate environment as a child. So, our superego, with its cultural conditioning, controls us and thus affects our beliefs and feelings. So motivation must be directed towards the superego, which is bounded by culture. As Hofstede states, 2 strong uncertainty avoidance countries like Austria, working hard is caused by an inner urge, it is a way of relieving stress. Thus, cultural conditioning is a major factor that would affect how employees need to be motivated. Conclusion. The above discussion clearly shows that motivation theories must be culture-bound. As Hofstede argues, management theories of motivation that are in use today are mostly manufactured in America, and their arguments are bounded by the theorist's cultural constructions. This he shows by pointing at the difference between the psychological theories of motivation between Freud, who is an Austrian, and those of Maslow, Herzberg, Verum, and McClelland. Hofstede states that motivation theories are used to humanize the working conditions and argue that due to difference in culture, the motivational approaches adopted in countries differ. He exemplifies this through the following. There are two main currents in the humanization of work. One, developed in the United States and called job enrichment, aims at restructuring individual jobs. The other current, developed in Europe, aims at restructuring work into group work, forming, for example, such semi-autonomous teams as those seen in the experiments at Volvo. Why the difference in approaches? What is seen as a human job depends on a society's prevailing model of humankind. Thus, work motivation is affected by culture, and motivational measures differ with changes in cultural norms and values. Above all, the cultural constructs and discourses become a strong force in developing the self-concept of individuals and thus their change in motivational needs. Hence, it can be concluded that motivational theories are culture-bound.